Good evening, everybody. This is Robin with another edition of Horror Pop After Midnight. And my guests tonight are filmmakers Kyle Rayburn and Ben Reger. How's it going, guys?
Hey! Nice. Thanks for having us,
Thanks, Robin. Good to see you.
I challenge you guys into a game of Candyland.
That's great. That's great. And that game is quite difficult, actually, to master because it's just all about chance. And I think that's kind of what the movie kind of explores a little bit. So, yeah, Candyland is difficult.
And not a lot of strategy there. It's kind of luck. But absolutely.
Yeah.
I still think I could take you and Todd at the same time and kick all your guys' asses.
I love it. Yeah. We thought that was a fun, easy one that everyone understood how it works. So we didn't have to explain what the rules were of Candyland. I think everyone gets it.
Now, let's talk about your film. I love the name of it. Satanic Soccer Mom from Ohio. That's a catchy name for an indie horror, dark humor film.
I appreciate that. Yeah, it kind of like pays homage to a lot of the 80s titles. Killer Clowns from Outer Space and just, all of those things where they kind of included that extra piece of information you didn't really need to know. It could have been Satanic Soccer Mom. Actually, I think you really like that, just that as a self-sufficient title.
The Satanic Soccer Mom.
Just, because it kind of rolls off the tongue. But when you add in the From Ohio part, It kind of plays into that trope a little bit. And I think people even want to see it even more because I feel like you would watch some movies and everyone always like, yeah, well, I'm from Ohio. And that's like a joke or something. So thank you for loving that title because I think it is catchy.
And to be quite honest with you, Kyle came up with the name of the film well before we had any idea what the movie
was going to be about.
He just said, hey, the next movie is called this. Okay, so start thinking about what the plot is going to be for the movie.
Hey, like I said, that's a very catchy name, and I love all the movie references in it. I love the X-Files quote, which is clever. And, of course, the main character, Annie, whose son in the film is named Eric Cartman from South Park. I started busting up laughing.
Yeah. I mean, his actual name isn't Eric Cartman, but, yeah, because he's a deviant, I think that was a reference to South Park.
Correct,
but, yeah. But that's funny. Yes, thank you.
Now, let's talk about the main character, Annie. She gets into a lot of trouble, with a demonic being from hell. I love Annie. I love, her dark humor, her, sarcastic attitude. That's the type of girl I would love to hang out with. I would let her get sarcastic with me all day and all night. It wouldn't bother me one bit.
Yeah, that's great. Grace her name is Grace Palazzi Hayes. She is awesome. She's actually from the same town we are. We've kind of known her for a long time, and she was in our first movie towards the end, and I knew that if I didn't have Grace as Annie, that it probably wouldn't work because I knew whoever was going to play Annie was going to have to bounce off of Brian Papandrea, who plays Todd and Balthazar, and that's not an easy place to fill. Brian is a professional through and through, and he's just so fast. I knew that they had worked together prior to filming Satanic, or actually it was just after. No, Spooky Dookie happened just after.
Correct.
But I just knew they were going to be flying together because Grace can take it as she can give it. So, and as soon as they met, they were best friends, and that helped filming tremendously, especially considering how long Brian was in makeup the one day. So, yeah, she's awesome, and I hope that she really gets nominated for something at Horror Hound. I think that would really knock her socks off, and I think that would really kind of draw a lot of people to hopefully wanting to work with her.
Yeah, like I said, Grace and Brian, I love their chemistry because you can tell they really knew each other. It kind of felt like they were like siblings a little bit.
Yes.
And both of the roles kept me on the edge of my seat because you don't know what was going to happen, if Todd was going to outsmart Annie or Annie was going to outsmart Todd. You just didn't know about it. And I just love how they played off each other, where they kept on guessing. All right, who's going to win? Is it going to be the good or evil? And which I loved, and I loved the different games they challenged. They played like looked like kind of like beer pong, and then of course Candyland. Candyland was priceless. Her playing Candyland against a demonic being from hell. That was priceless.
yeah. Just those were kind of like small callbacks to, I think, our childhood.
Absolutely.
And I think things that would resonate with other people. You know, like when they're playing Mario Kart. You know, when they're playing beer pong. You know, everyone can relate to that. And I think if you watch the very beginning of that scene, his fake horn actually falls off while they were playing, and Brian caught it and like put it sort of back in, and it was just so good we left it in, because I feel like that's where really the magic of what we're trying to do is in those small moments that weren't scripted, and we just find them funny because, you know, and what's not to say that a demon's horn would just fall off anyway and he would try to put it back on. So yeah,
let's talk about Brian's role. Was he your main idea to play the demon Todd?
Yeah, without Brian, there was no. I think because I had built a relationship with Brian, working on our first feature together, Night Work, and I knew that he wanted to come back and play with us again. I wouldn't have probably done Satanic Soccer Mom without having Brian immediately attached to Balthazar and Todd. It would have been impossible. Actually, if it wasn't Brian, I said I was going to do it.
Yeah.
And I know that sounds crazy, but that's how it was going to go down.
And just to throw back, also just knowing who was going to be playing those roles, it made it so much easier for us to write the script in their voices as well. So we know Grace, we know Brian, we worked with them in the past, we know how to write for them to make them the best that they can be. So,
yeah,
for sure,
absolutely. Without Brian, no movie. That's what that comes down to.
Yeah, Brian was great. He nailed that role to the T. You can tell he was having fun with that role, and he made it so fun where you thought he was really a funny, messed up, demonic being from hell. And I loved his gestures, his mannerisms, how he could turn the character on and off. You know, he can go from human back to his whole demonic self. And plus, he was a Halo driver instead of an Uber driver, you know, picking up his victims, especially the one where he picked up the guy with the little dog. That was hilarious.
Yes, Jerry and Dolly Pancakes is the name of that dog. Jerry is just a local rock and roll musician. We've known him off and on, and yeah, he was just like a perfect choice to have him, and that's his actual dog. Like they drove up from West Virginia to do that small little bit, and for that we're forever grateful.
And back to Brian as well. Brian, I mean, yeah, he was great in the movie. He was joking around, you know, being jovial, just being that. But he was doing it in this makeup, and he was in such agony. To tell you, but he was in this latex makeup for hours.
14 hours.
Yeah. So, but again, he was just such a professional. Did such a great job by doing that. Yeah, with the horns and everything. But
yeah, and we had these press-on nails, like these black long nails that he had to wear. And you know, I have worn fake nails, and you know how it feels when your fingertips start to get sort of raw from that extra contact. And he was in that for 14 hours, and then when we went to take him out of it, they wouldn't come off. And he wasn't somebody that was just like, oh, use a butter knife to just pop those off. So we had to soak his nails and his fingers in acetone for like 30 minutes to get them to come off. And even then, when all the black paint had faded from the nails, they were, because he had such perfect manicured nails. My wife, Nikki, who's like our script supervisor and sort of our prop manager, who's like, his nails were so clean, the glue just took to him, and he just rooted in, and like, this is great. This is our new home now. So, yeah, love this guy to death. I yanked that guy out of a shower and took him to B-dubs, and he still had red paint behind his ears, and he just looked like a wet, like, you know, special effect Jim Henson puppet that someone grabbed out of a closet. But he was a trooper, never complained once, and got it done. The entire... Basically, everything that he's in makeup was done in one day. Everything where he's in human form was done in the second day.
The one thing that creeped me out about the film was the Karens, man. Those I'm gonna tell you something, man. Those chicks really freak me out. You know, it's like, I don't want to hang out with no Karens. I mean, who knows? Maybe I have some Karens that live down the street from me. I just don't know.
We all do.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I love that. And those three ladies are just top shelf. Honestly, they made it look so easy to be that like creepy. It was effortless because they just dialed into what the tone was. They knew exactly what the characters were. And I think once we put them in those kind of semi-matching hats and the sunglasses, I think it all came together and you just point a camera and shoot.
Yeah. We're very good when we write. We don't write, we're not, it's not Bible for what we write. It's, here is AV, let's play around with it, do your thing. And they did so many of their own little things adding into that we were just off camera just cracking up like, that is fantastic. Thank you for adding that in, because I couldn't have thought of doing that.
No.
Thank you for doing that.
No.
Yeah.
So did Brian and Grace, when they did the roles together and shared the same scenes with each other, I kind of picked it up. Did it kind of ad-lib some of their lines a little bit to make it like funny and quirky?
Honestly, I think you would kind of think that, but honestly,
most of their stuff is,
they stayed pretty true to the script, honestly, and I don't know if that makes us seem like funny people.
Well, I'm hilarious.
But honestly, there were moments of improv, and we told them, and Brian knows. Brian actually is a graduate of Second City. So this guy is trained front and back in improv. Mm-hmm. But he never tries to trump what's there, what's already there. Yeah, and then if he comes up with something, it sticks. It always sticks. But honestly, they pretty much played it by the script, and especially Grace, because I think Grace kind of likes that rhythm of knowing how the cadence of the conversation is going to go. And so very rarely would she improv. But I think her improvisational skills are being able to deliver the different lines when we go take to take.
Correct. So it's more of the body language type of things, or the delivery, but the words are still the same as what we put on the page there.
Yeah.
Yeah, Grace's Boba Fett tattoo rocked. I'm a huge Star Wars nerd.
That's a great segue. I love that segue.
I love that ink. I was like, oh my gosh, if Annie was a legit person in real life, I would so date her. When I saw that Boba Fett ink on her and all that, and how she acts and holds, I was like, that's a type of chick I would date.
Yeah. So have you seen the show Weeds?
Yes.
Okay, so ultimately, when this whole thing started, I told Grace, I said, I really just want you to play Nancy Botwin as if Nancy Botwin had accidentally summoned a demon. I want you to just kind of deal with it the same way a Mexican drug cartel lord would walk into your kitchen and tell me, all these things. And I think she literally pulled it off. And I think that was enough direction for her that I never had to coach her once during filming.
Yeah.
Now, let's talk about the makeup. I know the makeup was agonizing on Brian. Who did that makeup to that bright red makeup to look like he was really demonic?
Yeah, great question, actually. Todd Reed, who's a Columbus-based artist, Todd Reed does big, grandiose things. He does small, tiny little projects, and he does big things. We approached Todd and said, hey, we kind of want this cheesy kind of looking 80s half-finished makeup character. And I know that maybe some people would look at it and say, oh, well, the makeup stops at his neckline. It was kind of built in that way, and we kind of barely touch on it comedically through the script that way. But Todd Reed knocked it out of the park, because really, if you look at those even tight shots and the brighter, harsher shots on the makeup, where the horns come out of the skin, it flushes really nicely across the forehead, and you don't really see any kind of it's really good up here, and we wanted it cheesy and kind of like half done here.
Yeah, it looked pretty good. I mean, that and the horns and everything, it was a perfect, makeup job, which, I was real impressed about it. I mean, for, something for a film like you guys are doing for an indie film, it was actually, not that bad.
The bulk of our budget was spent on the makeup.
It really was. Yeah, it was, because we did a full makeup test with Brian prior to filming, which is honestly, in our world, a super luxury.
Absolutely.
It's like, welcome to the world of the rich and the famous. When you have you get to take Brian to Todd's house and put him in full makeup and watch the whole thing come to life. And that's, I think, honestly, when Todd put Brian into makeup for the first time, I think that's when we realized we knew we had something funny.
Yes.
And even if it wasn't like, we weren't breaking any ground in anywhere, we knew that it was going to look good.
It was going to look really,
it was going to look really good.
Yeah.
And that was just kind of like a quick 45-minute session as to where Todd it took about 90 minutes to put Brian in makeup that day when we shot him in full. But thank you for saying that, because I think it is like the perfect blend of that 80s kind of campy, tropey makeup, but it also reads well.
Yes.
Yeah, I love how he was dressed like an 80s campy demon with the Levi jean jacket, the cool tennis shoes, and I love the horror buttons on the jacket and the metal buttons, and then the Cinema Wasteland patch that was on there. That was priceless.
Yeah, I think a lot of that just comes from Howie Mandel and Little Monsters. I think, and that's actually Brian.
And then that's just Brian.
His signature jacket.
That's the jacket you'll see him. You see him out if you go to the fest. He's probably wearing that jacket. That or someone stole it. Oh yeah, he'll be at Warehouse.
He will also be.
So he'll probably be wearing that jacket. So if they wear that exact jacket.
That exact jacket.
You know what I'm going to do? When I see him at Horror Hound, I'm going to ask him, I go, did you steal that jacket from Howie Mandel?
Howie Mandel? Yeah. He'll love that, actually, I feel like. Yeah. Brian's great. He's actually going to be in our third movie that we're getting ready to start filming here in the spring and the summer.
Yeah, let's talk about your film, He's Coming to Get You. What's that all about?
Wow, I love that to me, that, I don't know. There's something magical about that. Our third movie is just going to be like kind of a complete departure, I think, from the first two. I mean, it's still kind of steeped in supernatural kind of mystique, but it's really a quick revenge tale with a little dash of voodoo. The synopsis is that a couple goes out on just a typical date, and they come in contact with some kidnappers, and they take the girl and kill the boy. And a mysterious stranger comes along and sees the occurrence and uses a little bit of black magic to give the boy until sunrise to go and rescue his girl. So kind of an old spaghetti western meets a little bit Crow, a little Shaun of the Dead humor. So that's kind of He's Coming to Get You in a nutshell.
With their black.
You got me at Shaun of the Dead, Phil. And Italian westerns. I'm a huge Italian western fan. I love it because it gets bloody and gutsy and action-packed. And a lot of people that's never saw a good, bloody Italian western film. It's kind of like a horror film, too, but a western version.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I think that when Tarantino did Django, I think that people thought he was pushing the envelope, but honestly, he was just paying homage to some of those great directors before him. But that's what we're looking to do for the third one, and I think there is a fourth one, but we won't say anything about that. But that's years away. But it's just we've been kind of lining these things up as they just happen organically through conversations and nights of filming and other ideas brewing. But
usually what happens with our movies is we'll do one, and as we're doing it, Kyle's coming up with an idea for the next one, and I mean, tell him to pump the brakes, like, let's get this one going. Then we can move on to the next one. So, but he's just has a wealth of creativity going. It's my job to kind of pull the reins and say, hey, whoa, easy, big fella.
Here's your name. Here's your carrot.
Finish your pudding. Come on.
Yes, agreed.
So that's why we work so well as the duo. Again, my job is to take his big idea and kind of mold it into what it needs to be, and then we can move on to the next one.
Now, let's go back, to Satanic Soccer Mom from Ohio. I love the soundtrack. I love the rockish, punkish soundtrack. When you were playing the certain songs I love how you would play the certain songs for each character in the film, and it really got you pumping and rocking. When I was listening to that soundtrack, man, I was jamming to it while I was watching the film, and I would love to get that soundtrack.
Man, honestly, You know what? I will put together a private playlist on Apple or Spotify and send it to you and share it with you, and then you can have it. As much as I would have loved to have done a soundtrack for that, because I had looked into pressing vinyls, but they were so expensive on small runs. There were just a few artists on that soundtrack that we had permission to use music for 100%, but we couldn't turn around and sell a soundtrack and make profit off of it. The first one mainly being Des Rocks, who is a massive influence in rock and roll right now. He has been gracious enough to lend us a track for the last movie and for the upcoming movie. So Des was a huge one. But the track that starts the movie off is a local band that's from right here in Delaware and Columbus, Air, 16th Avenue. And a lot of that music, with the exception of 2 artists, is right here from Ohio.
So people that we know.
We tried to keep it 100% local, but there were a few other artists that we just knew their music would fit the tone so well, and we approached. And it was Des, and Rolling Child was the other artist. But there are a lot of great rock and roll tracks in that movie. So thank you for appreciating that, because they will love to hear that.
And like you said, a lot of it was just people that we know here locally, just friends who are also, in the music industry that put out amazing music, and like, hey, is it cool? Like, absolutely, let's support each other. So that's really key.
Now let's talk about Todd again. I mean, he was my favorite through the whole film. I love Todd. I mean, shoot, I wish he can grant me 3 wishes, and they would be so fucked up.
It would be so fucked up.
It would not be that. Yeah, it would have nothing to do with the soccer game or anything. Probably not.
No. Yeah, he. I think once you put Brian in makeup, it was just like the rest is downhill. I think that's really how it happened.
Again, we work really well with Brian as well. He's been in our first film, Night Work, as well. And we know him. We're friendly. We're friends with him. He actually did a play recently. We went up and saw him. He's a very creative guy, so we can just kind of just tell him, here's our idea. We're all, movie nerds. We're playing this type of ways. Got it. And I was like, okay, I know what to do. Perfect. Or if it's not working, we'll throw something out and say, hey, try it this way. So he's always willing to work with us and get stuff done. So he's awesome.
Without spoiling it, I love what happened to Annie. I love how the ending twisted it, because I didn't see it was going to go that way. I thought, it's like, oh crap, this is it. And I just love the twist about the whole thing about it. And I also love the flashback dream sequences of Annie's husband, because through the whole movie, you see her meeting him, they get married, they have kids, and then through the whole movie, you're trying to figure out what happened to him when he took that trip. And I love how the people in the town were coming up with different messed up stories about her husband, going, hey, maybe your husband had a sex change, married your dad, and he's your stepmother. That was priceless. And I love how you explained the story about Annie's husband. I just love the dream sequences. Those were pretty cool.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think that those were kind of like what I always considered our Ocean's 11 wrap up.
Yeah.
I always loved kind of the caper sort of wrap-ups, and I think that was kind of my little, nod to caper wrap-ups, with showing Jack meeting the devil and kind of making that Candyland deal, doing a little bit of cocaine, drinking some bourbon. And when I tell you, Robin, that I accidentally just happened to have 2 good old boys who happen to know how to put away some whiskey, and I brought Jason Crow in, who played Jack. Jason Crow played Jack. And I think when I imagined that scene in my brain, I just thought, well, we'll have apple juice on the table.
Oh no.
Micah, the guy in the cowboy hat who was sweating through the Candyland game, he brought like a bottle of, I think it was like...
Incorrect. I provided...
What was that?
It's called OYO.
OYO.
It's a local bourbon here in Ohio, and I just had a bottle, so I put it down there and he said, we'll just do a little sip of it and just do it like these. They probably finished that bottle that night.
Yeah.
She's like, let's do another take. Here we go.
Yeah. So thank you for loving that part of the movie, because that was actually one of the tracks that we actually paid for through Rolling Child, and that song had, because the song was called Mistakes, please forgive my mistakes, and I think that for me was the most poetic I feel like I'll ever get with movie making.
And just to call back to Jason Crow obviously he's been in a lot of things as well, but he was amazing in it, and he doesn't have any lines in the movie. He doesn't have maybe he has 3 speaking lines.
I think that's what he likes.
But he was just so just played just the way he played it and just it.
He's super likable. Obviously he's handsome. He's more handsome than me.
Yeah, well that helps.
Yeah. So and him and Grace had an instant chemistry together, and that helps, because I hope that read well, as a viewer watching the movie, seeing kind of Grace and Annie and Jack kind of fall in love. I feel like that hopefully hooks you into what's going to happen to these characters.
Yeah, you want to know what happens to Jack, so it sounds like Robin like that.
Yeah, flip Jack.
Hey, I like to flip Jack. I love how it explained everything, because, through the whole movie, you get like a brief shot of him, and then after that, he's just gone. And it's through the whole movie, they just mention him, and, how much Annie, misses him, and, is tired of people, making these, wild excuse, far-fetched stories about her husband, which was, through the whole film, I loved the dark humor. But the one thing in the film that really disgusted me was when Brian as Todd was eating that bloody tampon. Oh my God.
I think that, actually we kind of found this out, in real time when we screened at Cinema Wasteland, that our movie was a little too, I don't know, is the word vanilla?
Tame.
Yeah.
For that crowd.
But I think there's something about the tampon gag that's pretty much going to get anybody. And ultimately, we're not out to grotesque anybody.
For the shock value.
No, I think that's not really our format. But I think that was kind of really us pushing the envelope, and maybe as much when Karen's tits fell off. Spoiler! Sorry, spoiler alert.
You're one of those guys. Spawn it. Shame on you.
I know you're right. No one's ever going to see this. Like the movie. But yeah, I think that was the grossest we were willing to go, because that's pretty gross.
It's very gross. And we had, we've shown it a couple times in public. We had our first showing at Cinema Wasteland we showed it to the group up there, people we didn't know, but then we also had a showing here locally at a local theater. Friends and family came and saw it, and there was a loud gasp when that came on the screen for sure.
Yeah, I don't think gores are kind of our wheelhouse, but that was pretty great.
Well, that's what I liked about the film. It wasn't gory at all or crazy mess up. Don't get me wrong, I love my gore too, but I like this movie because it didn't have that much gore, which made it fun. The characters, the dark humor, which really made this indie horror film fun. You really don't have to have gore in all films. And I love how you guys made it a practical horror film too, which was pretty good too.
Exactly.
So.
Yeah, I think it's awesome that you recognize all of those things in there. And I think that it's awesome that film festivals, especially Horror Hound, are recognizing, maybe not necessarily changes in format of genre, but they acknowledge those kind of stories being told and appreciate that. I think there's room for that, because
I hope so.
There's it's almost, even if we're the decompression period of the film festival, where people can just kind of go and have a laugh and not really have to worry about explicit images kind of popping up out of nowhere. I think it really pays homage to the movies that I grew up and loved, like Monster Squad and Night of the Creeps, stuff like that, just kind of fun where, I don't know, kids were kind of involved, and before the whole Stranger Things happened, there were just
monsters.
Like The Gate. I love The Gate.
Oh, yes.
Good movie.
Stephen Dorff.
Stephen Dorff.
Yes.
And there was just something about how there were a lot of movies back in the 80s where kids were kind of like the heroes.
Mm-hmm.
you know, and I think those have kind of dissipated from horror a little bit. I can't really think of too many modern horror movies where the kids are the heroes. M. Night Shyamalan, The Visit.
The Visit, yes.
That reminds me of kind of an old 80s thing but anyway, I think I like that there's room in film festivals like Horror Hound for stories like ours.
Yeah.
The movies again. Oh, go ahead, Rob. I'm sorry.
Sorry. Yeah, like you're talking about those like kid type of films, because I grew up in the '80s and I loved those films too. And you also got to mention what you said about Little Monsters, because Brian kind of reminded me of the Howie Mandel's character from Little Monsters with Fred Savage.
Sure.
That's a classic. And then if you want to go from there too, we can also talk about Kids versus Aliens, which just came out, which is kind of a homage to that too.
Yeah, Attack the Block. That's a great
Attack
one.
the Block's a good one.
Yeah, I like Attack the Block. But I wish I could just pump those out like left and right, where things that were PG-13, that kind of pushed the adult humor a little bit, but were always accessible to kids, because that's what really got me into horror anyway, was kind of movies like that. I mean, I think once you see Monster Squad, which seems on the surface like a pretty easy movie to watch, like the beginning of that movie is pretty intense.
Yes.
Like Van Helsing's trying to kill Dracula, and it's very archaic, and I love those, because then you throw in there's like a Huey Lewis in the news trap right after that scene, and then you're just like off and run into like an 80s thing, and there's something so nostalgic about that genre of horror that I think that's what I'm trying to recreate. I think.
Well, I thought, like I said, it was a fun indie film, and I'm not just saying that just to, blow sunshine up your guys' asses.
Well, yeah, my mother does that every day. I don't know.
There's some indie horror out there I didn't like, and I'm not afraid to admit what I didn't like about it or what I liked about it. But I really enjoyed this. Like I said, I thought it was fun. And I'm looking forward to seeing it again at Horror Hound Film Festival, because I'm going to be covering that. That's a great film festival, and I'm glad they accepted your film into that festival, because Horror Hound's horror film festival is awesome. They always get the best indie horror filmmakers from everywhere, from the short films to the feature films, and it's just like a giant horror family, of all these filmmakers, actresses, and actors. You just all get together for that weekend, watch each other's films, and it's just a good time.
Yeah, just you saying that makes me want it to be March already, because it really is the one thing that started the entire process. It was the catalyst
for doing this.
Yeah, I remember how this happened. Long story short, and then we can maybe wrap this thing up.
Yes.
I heard my buddy call me and said that Michael Madsen is going to be signing autographs in Sharonville, Ohio at a convention called Horror Hound.
Okay.
And up to that point, I had never heard of it. I believe I can date this to be 2015, I think is when it was. So I went to meet Michael Madsen. That was my whole goal. I did that. It was the second greatest day of my life. And then I got hooked because I went and saw one of Brian Williams' movies at the film festival. I started seeing all of these people doing, independent horror movies. I'm like, oh my, this just has to be an absolute blast scene to be a part of, And so really I was hooked. And then it just took a couple of years to kind of get myself in a position where I knew, or I thought I could, make this happen. And then I don't know. So fast forward 7 years later, my second movie's accepted at Horror Hound is, that's a wild thing for me, for sure. So we are definitely looking forward to being at Horror Hound in March.
When Kyle got the announcement, he texted me and his wife right away, and we're like, what? No, we didn't. Like, yeah, dude, we got it.
Recount.
Wow. Okay. All right. That's amazing.
Yeah. Very cool for us.
Yes.
So, Brian, do you have a Horror Hound story that brings back memories for you, or have you ever been to a Horror Hound?
This is going to be my very first Horror Hound, so I'm not lying to you there, Robin. So this is my very first Horror Hound. I've been to Cinema Wasteland multiple times. This is going to be my first Horror Hound, so I'm excited to be my very first one. I'm going to be there slinging movies, but also going to be presenting my second film as well that I wrote, which is like insane.
Yeah.
So just a little bit about Kyle and I. So Kyle and I grew up together.
What?
Obviously, and then we kind of dissipated, and then we came back, and one day he was out, he was saying, hey, I have this script, I'm trying to get this done, I'm selling T-shirts. That's what he was doing, some fundraising that way. We've always loved movies or whatever. I said, hey, send me the script, let me read it, and I read it, I said, hey, listen, I'm going to fund the very first movie to get this done with the anticipation that we continue on moving forward, making more movies with this. So the very first movie, Night Work, we made, it was fine. We learned how to make a movie. And then with that, I wrote 95% of Satanic Soccer Mom with that and getting this done. So, but I'm super, super excited to do this and be in this industry and meet these people, meet Brian, get to work with Brian Papandrea, working with Ellie Church, Jason Crow, bringing in new faces like Grace has been a pleasure, and it's awesome.
So does that mean me and Kyle has to pop your whorehound cherry?
Yes, you do. And I am very, very excited for that.
It really is one of the best cherries to pop. I know that it's going to look a little different this year because the hotel across the street, I believe, is closed. I don't know where they're hosting the film festival this year, but regardless of how it looks, it's just one of those weekends that as soon as Monday comes, you're just completely depressed because you miss everybody already, and you have to wait an entire year to see that whole thing again. Yeah.
You know what we have to do? Me, you, Brian, Brian and everybody in the Cash Nut we need to do after hours from the convention. We should all get together somewhere, play Candyland, and have some drinks.
Yeah, beer's fine too.
Oh yeah, beer's good.
Yeah, we can have some beer.
Yeah.
We'll get Grace and all them. We'll play some Candyland, man.
Yeah, that's great. That would be that actually would be pretty fun. Actually, we did a lot of we will be staying down there somewhere. But if there happens to be a Candyland tournament, you certainly have VIP access.
That's great. And like I said, I'm looking forward to, like I said, seeing the film there. I'm looking forward to meeting you guys and, Grace and Brian and all of them. I'm so looking forward to it. And I'm definitely going to pick up a Blu-ray because I tell this to everybody on my show. I'm a strong supporter of physical media. I know they're trying to destroy it and, make it disappear. It's not actually going to disappear. You can still go like the Vinegar Syndrome to the boutique ones. But, now we got all these casual movie film fan streamers. I'm not slamming on anybody that likes to stream and watch films. I mean, that's their prerogative. I'd rather have the strong physical copy in my hand, uncut and unedited, because when you watch a film streaming, sometimes they'll cut certain scenes out of it or they're edited, and if you're not real familiar with that film, you're not going to pick up on it.
Yeah, I think that's why I love Cinema Wasteland so much, just because that's like the epitome of physical media trading and convention. You see like old 70s snapback cases there from like $400 or $500, because people love it that much. I agree. It's great to have a copy, and when you swing by the booth at Horror Hound, I'll give you a copy of Night Work, so you can check out our first movie.
Where we learned how to make a movie.
Yes.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that. You guys learned how to make your filmmaking. You guys learned it on hands-on. You didn't go to school or anything. You just wrote the script, tried to figure out how to edit, and all that great stuff. And I give you props for it. I mean, the editing on the film is pretty good. I'm a sucker for editing and visual effects. The editing was great on the film. You guys did a good job editing it, which and plus I'm a fan of cinematography as well. There was a couple good little pan shots in there too. So yeah.
I appreciate that. Thank you so much. I appreciate that.
People don't realize how hard it is to make a movie. There's all those little small things in the background that you need to do as well to really make it work. So thank you for that.
So
I don't know if...
Go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I don't know if you know this or not, but we actually made that movie on the iPhone.
You guys shot that on the iPhone. I didn't know that. I mean, I know when people start getting into filmmaking, some people start off on iPhone. That's amazing. You can't even tell it was filmed off an iPhone.
Really? I love that. Well, yeah, that Satanic Soccer Mom is shot 100% on the iPhone 12 Pro Max.
Wow, that's amazing, man. I give you guys props for that, man. That's pretty cool. So where can everybody find you on social media to see what you're doing next?
Yeah, awesome. So basically, we just have a Facebook because unfortunately, a few years ago, our Instagram got sniped in a hack job, and I just really don't have the effort anymore to run two social medias. So please check us out on Facebook, the Midnight Film Company. You can direct message us. We'll ship out the next day if you order a Blu-ray or anything like that. We've got plenty of copies of Night Work and Satanic Soccer Mom from Ohio. But yeah, and we'll be vending all weekend at Horror Hound in March in Sharonville. So with Brian Papandrea and all of his movies for Rock Bottom Video. So that's where you can find us.
And Satanic Soccer Mom will be showing at Horror Hound. We're not sure of the day or the time yet. We're still waiting for them to release that. So if you haven't, go online, Horror Hound. They'll let you know what the event schedule is when we're
Horrorhound.com /film festival. I don't know. That's probably not right.
But anyway, yes,
it's a guess. It's a hip shot.
So we'll be there, and we will be able to answer any questions you have about why we do.
Yeah, thank you so much for coming on. You guys are fun to talk to, man.
Yeah, thanks for spending some time with us tonight.
I'm excited to see you in person here in about a month as well. So.
Oh, you better be, because we're going to pop your Whorehound cherry.
I can't wait to see what that looks like.
I know, right? But not in a sexual way, but it'll be a different way.
Don't cheat yourself yet.
Yeah, come on.
Early. Every time you pass up sex, you're cheating on yourself.
Hey.
All right, thank you guys.
Thanks.
And everybody have a great evening, and thank you for listening to Horror Pop After.